Barry Morphew arrested again, 5 years after his wife Suzanne's disappearance and 3 years after murder charges were dropped. Prosecutors say they finally have what they need. What's the new evidence that put Barry back behind bars? I'm Chris. Thanks for joining us today. Let's recap. It's been 5 years since Suzanne Morphew vanished on Mother's Day in 2020. And now, Barry Morphew, the man who's always claimed he had nothing to do with his wife's disappearance, is now charged with her murder. Again. He was first arrested back in 2021, but that case fell apart when prosecutors said they needed more time to build it. Then in 2023, Suzanne's body was found, buried in a shallow grave miles from where she disappeared. And now, Barry's back behind bars, charged once again. This time, authorities say they have the evidence they need and they're ready to take him to trial. So, what's different now? It's what investigators found in Suzanne's remains. Traces of BAM, B-A-M. That's what they call a mix of 3 sedative anesthetics: butorphanol, azapirone, and medetomidine. Together, it's a powerful tranquilizer used to sedate large animals, like deer. And here's where that points to Barry. During the search of the Morphew home back in 2020, investigators found something that didn't add up: a needle cap hidden in the dryer. Prosecutors say it came from a package of tranquilizer darts they later found locked in Barry's gun safe. That discovery fits their theory that on May 9th, the day before Suzanne was reported missing, Barry chased her down with a tranquilizer gun. They point to his cell data showing him moving in what they call a bizarre pattern around the outside of the house that afternoon. Barry's explanation? He was chasing a chipmunk, but investigators say he used the tranquilizer to immobilize Suzanne, killed her, then staged a crime scene. They believe he tossed her mountain bike and helmet into the woods and created an alibi for himself by driving 150 miles to a job site early on Mother's Day. Now they say they can prove it. BAM, the tranquilizer found in Suzanne's remains, is strictly controlled. Records show Barry bought it in Indiana back in 2018 for his deer farm. And when Suzanne vanished in Colorado 2 years later, Barry was the only private citizen in that part of the state with access to it. Prosecutors say that's no coincidence. But here's something that wasn't widely known until now. According to the grand jury indictment, Suzanne was still alive after she was shot with the tranquilizer. So BAM didn't necessarily kill her, but prosecutors say it made it easier. A pharmacology expert told the grand jury it would leave her immobile, vulnerable, and unable to resist any constrictions to her breathing. And there's more. Investigators don't believe Suzanne decomposed where she was found, in a shallow grave about an hour from her home in a field just off the highway. A forensic anthropologist testified the evidence didn't fit. There was no bug activity, no signs that animals had touched the remains, and her mountain biking clothes were clean of decomposition. All of it points to one thing: Suzanne's body was moved. And then there's this. Partial male DNA was found on the glove compartment of Suzanne's SUV. At one point, it looked like that DNA matched partial profiles from 3 unsolved sexual assault cases in other states. But the new indictment says not so fast. A DNA expert testified that the so-called matches don't necessarily mean they were identical. It only meant those other profiles couldn't be ruled out because the partial DNA had so few markers to compare. But when investigators took a closer look, they could and did rule out the 3 possible sources. The new indictment also paints a clearer picture of what Barry was doing the weekend Suzanne vanished. He first told investigators he'd driven home for lunch that Saturday, May 9th. But when they showed him location data, it appeared he'd actually approached the house on foot. Why? Investigators say Suzanne's best friend revealed Barry had stalked them, sneaking up to their houses, convinced his wife was having an affair. And she was. Except Barry told them their marriage was perfect. But investigators say the reality was anything but. They uncovered messages discussing divorce. Messages Barry had deleted. On May 6th, just days before she vanished, Suzanne texted him, "I'm done. I could care less what you're up to and have been for years. We just need to figure this out civilly." Authorities say Barry deleted the full exchange, but saved that "I'm done" message as a screenshot on his phone. That same day, Suzanne wrote a note in her phone. Barry had found out about her boyfriend. She'd been having an affair for about a year. The man lived in another state. He was married too. Around 2 p.m. on May 9th, Suzanne sent him a selfie, what investigators call her last proof of life. The two exchanged dozens of messages that day, but when he replied to her photo at 2:44 and again at 2:46, Suzanne never answered. At 2:47, Barry's phone went into airplane mode and stayed that way until 10:17 p.m. But here's something you might not know. Even in airplane mode, your phone keeps logging location data. And Barry's phone? Police say it shows him zigzagging around the house almost as soon as he got home, chasing that chipmunk, according to Barry. And then there's his alibi. The new indictment highlights what prosecutors call an irregular gap in the vehicle data from Barry's truck the weekend his wife disappeared. Barry told investigators he went to bed around 8 p.m. on May 9th, but his truck's computer tells a different story. Around 9:30 p.m., someone put it in reverse and backed up towards the house. Between 9:52 p.m. on May 9th and 3:25 the next morning, no data was recorded from his truck. Then it logs data again briefly until 3:49 a.m. After that, nothing until 8:10 a.m. By then, GPS shows Barry was already at a job site 150 miles away in Broomfield. He told police he left home around 5 a.m. Suzanne was still asleep when he left. But here's the thing. Those gaps in data are unusual and unlike anything they saw in his truck data before that weekend. Prosecutors say that's no coincidence. Based on surveillance footage, phone data, and truck records, Barry was in the Broomfield area for nearly 10 hours. But he spent less than 30 minutes at the job site. Instead of working, cameras show him walking in and out of his hotel in different clothes. And what was he doing? Police say he was dumping trash bags and other items in bins at different businesses nearby. Meanwhile, Barry's daughters, who were out of town that weekend, couldn't reach Suzanne to wish her a happy Mother's Day. So they asked a neighbor to check in. When they couldn't find Suzanne either, they called Barry. He told them to check again, and if she still wasn't there, to call 911 because, as he said, he was driving home and didn't have cell service. But according to investigators, he wasn't on the road. They say he was still at the hotel with cell service the whole time. So why was his case dismissed the first time? At that point, Suzanne's body still hadn't been found, and that missing piece was crucial. But that wasn't all. The judge barred most key witnesses from testifying after prosecutors repeatedly failed to turn over evidence to Barry's defense team. With so many obstacles, prosecutors knew they couldn't win, so in 2022, just days before the trial was set to start, they dropped the charges. Then in 2024, the district attorney was disbarred for ethics violations and misconduct, most of it tied to how she handled the Morphew case. Luckily for Suzanne's supporters, when they dropped the charges back in 2022, they did it with prejudice. That meant they could refile the case. And now, that's exactly where we are. But this time, Barry will stand trial somewhere new. The county where Suzanne's body was found, and there's a new district attorney in charge ready to take this case to the finish line. What do you think? Will this finally be the trial that brings justice for Suzanne? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more crime in half the time. I'm Chris. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.